So off the back of winning the World Cup, what a year it has been so far for the Springboks. Brilliant series they played out against Ireland. I know they drew that series, but even so, we had two mega test matches, and they are now in position where they're almost certainly going to win the Rugby Championship for the first time since 2019, I'm pretty sure, and they've just beaten New Zealand back-to-back in the Rugby Championship for the first time in a long, long time as well. Things are looking good, and there are a number of reasons that I think they have been so impressive that I'm going to run through in this video. You can have your say in the comments. If there's something in particular about this Springbok team that particularly impresses you, they are quite a unique team. They are writing their place in kind of rugby's history, certainly in the modern era and in the professional era as we speak. Let me know in the comment section. And whilst you're here as well, if you fancy just putting a thumbs up on the video, I'd absolutely love it. And also make sure you are subscribed to the channel. But as I say, I think there are a few different things for me that stand out for this Springboks team. And it's not just this year, it's probably kind of the last 5 years, particularly the last maybe 2 or 3 years, if we look at how they transition in between World Cups. I'll get onto that in just a moment. First of all, I wanted to talk about the performance, because I think most Springbok fans would agree that the Boks haven't been at their best for a full 80 minutes yet this year. In both those test matches against Ireland, I think they would look at it and say there was good things, but they weren't absolutely perfect. In their matches so far in the Rugby Championship, despite two pretty comfortable wins against the Wallabies, as you would expect, and two tight wins against New Zealand, in all of those games, they haven't been at their best. And that, for me, is one of the things that has been so impressive for a team that can quite regularly not necessarily be at their very, very, very best, and there are reasons for that, but they still get over the line. It is the ultimate sign of a great team, isn't it? When you're able to not necessarily play your best, but still able to win test matches, and importantly, still able to win tight test matches against top quality opposition, which is what we saw in the first test against Ireland, is what we've seen in the two test matches over the last couple of weekends against New Zealand. I think it is a very, very impressive part of this South African team. A big part of that is also the rotation. Coming onto that in just a second, because in terms of performance, I wanted to mention the power game. We've been speaking about the power game of this Boks team for, the last 5 years, really? Since that kind of run to the World Cup title in 2019 and that final where they obliterated the England scrum, ground them down and blew them away. The power game of this Springboks team has been unmatched, really. I think every so often you get matches where teams go toe-to-toe with them. I think teams can match them on rare occasions. I don't think you ever see a team outpower this Springboks side. And that has been such a weapon again. You look at a couple of those matches that I mentioned in terms of the tight matches we've seen against New Zealand, for example. Tight matches where New Zealand have even been in the lead for parts of them, heading into the latter stages. And the power that comes off the bench, the quality of reinforcements, the strength in depth, which speaks to the whole kind of rugby culture in South Africa, I think, and the depth of their player pool is unrivaled. It is such a weapon, that power game, and it will keep them in test matches, and it will see them get themselves back into test matches, I think, for the foreseeable future. Like, if you're an opposition coach planning to play them and coming up with a game plan, you must look at that and think, I don't know what we do for that. I don't know how you combat it, because I don't think there's anyone really at the moment. Ireland are certainly the closest that are able to compete with it. But I mentioned the squad. We have to mention that if we're talking about the Springboks and about why they're so impressive at the moment. And it is their rotation of their side. They so consistently seem to have a squad packed full of World Cup winners, and also with quite a few players that aren't experienced at all. And we've seen that again this year with, I know didn't play at the weekend, but Afalele Fassi at fullback, Sasha Feinberg, Umgomazulu at fly half. We look at Ben Jason Dixon or Ruan Nortje or Steenkamp on the bench. The matchday squad has actually been littered with players that aren't that experienced, but it still is a squad packed full of about 13 World Cup winners. The way in which they rotate their squad, the way in which they seem to be able to build a squad for the future whilst not particularly compromising anything for the here and now is something, it's probably the thing actually for kind of Rassie Erasmus and then looking back to the Erasmus Nienaber era, is the thing that impresses me the most about the Springboks. I don't think there's any international side in world rugby that do it quite as well. And maybe in a few years' time, we'll see it being a bit more of a challenge. I don't know, there's a number of guys in the squad, aren't there, that are kind of early 30s. Are they going to get to the next World Cup? Is there going to become a period where quite a few of them drop out in one go? We'll wait and see how they deal with that. If it happens, will be fascinating. But that rotation of the squad, so impressive. Young players coming through who have an instant impact, the experienced players there as well. And amongst all of this, the most important thing in international rugby, they're still winning. And they're going to keep winning, I think, for the foreseeable future. So overall, those are kind of the main things, really, when I look at it at the moment that really impresses me. What we are at, I think, with the Boks is they are a great side, aren't they? I know on the one hand, it's a pointless debate of are they the greatest side ever or whatever. It's so subjective. There's been plenty of great teams. What we do know is they are one of the great sides. Whether you think they're number one or they're amongst the pack, they're certainly, I think, one of the best teams ever. They will be remembered in that sort of vein. And actually, when I look at this South African team, I just wonder whether we have been living through a real changing of the power in the Southern Hemisphere. You know how it was, 2009? They'd last won the Freedom Cup. They've now won it again following that victory at the weekend. When did New Zealand win it back off them? Genuinely. Because it's taken South Africa a long time to get that back. Because New Zealand can't now win one and lose one. They have to win both games. And given how strong the Boks are, when do we think that happens? Just a kind of food for thought, I suppose. Something that I've been pondering over the last few days because I think it could be a little while, potentially. So what impresses you about the Springboks? Those are the big things for me. They are in a great place. They are going to win the Rugby Championship. It would be miraculous if they didn't. I think, A, that's significant. They've won back-to-back World Cups. We all know the importance of the World Cup, how much it means to South Africa. It's always viewed as just much more important than the Rugby Championship. But I think for a team as good as this, they need to be winning more Rugby Championships. They're going to do that, and they've won the Freedom Cup as well. They've got one over on their biggest rivals, and has the balance of power in that rivalry. Is it maybe just shifting? Maybe. Just a little bit. 3 wins in a row if we want to count the World Cup final. I know that was a 1-point game. And in fact, all 3 matches have been really tight. New Zealand might look at it and say it could have been 3 games that went the other way. What are you talking about? But I just wonder whether there's a slight alteration in the balance of that rivalry at the moment that we're going through. Let me know in the comments section. I look forward to reading them. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you in the next one.